Welcome to The Explainer. I'm your host, and today we're exploring a truly fascinating piece of life-saving engineering. If you've ever thought about the sheer logistics of emergency medicine, well, you know that saving a life is rarely a stationary event, right? It happens on living room floors, in cramped stairwells, and bouncing around in the back of moving ambulances. It is a grueling, exhausting physical feat. So today we're looking at how modern technology is stepping in to solve one of the absolute most physically demanding challenges in those critical environments.
Okay, let's dive right into this. How exactly do you maintain perfect compressions for nearly an hour when someone's life is literally on the line? Just think about the sheer physical toll for a second. Manual CPR is utterly exhausting. Even the most highly trained professional rescuers begin to experience deep fatigue after just a couple of minutes. The depth of the compression changes, the rhythm slows down, and the recoil isn't quite as sharp. So, how do we remove human fatigue from the equation entirely?
Here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the demand for consistent CPR, introduce the ARM XR, dive into its life-saving engineering and features, look at the accessories in the ecosystem, address common operational questions, and finally, wrap up with the bottom line.
Section 1. The demand for consistent CPR.
So the absolutely crucial point here is ensuring high-quality, consistent CPR by making incredibly smooth transitions from manual to mechanical compressions. Think about a real-world emergency setting. The patient needs to be moved from the site of the emergency onto a stretcher, lifted into the ambulance, and eventually handed off to the hospital staff. Delivering continuous, high-quality compressions manually throughout all that chaotic movement is just incredibly difficult. Mechanical CPR bridges that gap, allowing the care team to focus on other vital interventions while the machine handles the compressions flawlessly.
Moving on to Section 2, introducing the ARM XR. And enter our focus for today, the Defibtech ARM XR. This is the next generation of automated chest compression devices, or ACCs, designed specifically for professional rescuers. With its striking yellow and black design, it's built to be highly visible and immediately deployable. It physically wraps right over the patient's chest to completely take over that grueling task of manual compressions we were just talking about.
Section 3. Life-saving engineering and features. Let's take a look under the hood, because the engineering here tackles 4 major pillars: active chest recoil, longer battery life, an integrated frame and backboard, and overall portability. Every single one of these elements was brilliantly designed to solve a very specific pain point that emergency medical services teams face out in the real world. Let's break these down.
What's really fascinating here is the suction cup piston design. It totally removes human error from maintaining compression depth. You know, in CPR, the release, or the recoil, is just as vital as the downward push because it allows the heart to actually refill with blood. The AMR XR utilizes an active chest recoil system. The suction cup literally assists the chest back to its natural position, guaranteeing consistent depth and recoil every single time, whether you're working on a sidewalk or inside an ICU.
That brings us to the number 45, as in 45 minutes of uninterrupted compressions. It's powered by a battery that gives you an incredible 33% more life than competitive devices on the market. In a rural setting where the transport time to the nearest hospital might be exceptionally long, or say during a complex extrication where a patient is trapped, having 45 minutes of reliable mechanical power is an absolute game changer for patient survival.
And incredibly, the whole shebang, including the battery pack and carrying case, weighs just 16.4 pounds. That's roughly the weight of a bowling ball. First responders are already lugging around heavy medical bags, oxygen tanks, and monitors. Adding an automated compression device can't mean adding a back-breaking load. At 16.4 pounds, it's truly lightweight and highly portable.
This lightweight, integrated frame directly solves that chaotic challenge of keeping a patient's arms and the device secure while rushing to the hospital. If you've ever seen a stretcher being hurried down a bumpy hallway, you know things shift around. The ARM XR's frame and backboard component work together to securely wrap around the patient. This structural stability means that no matter how rough the transport gets, the compressions remain flawlessly targeted.
Which brings us to Section 4, accessories and the ecosystem. Because a complex medical device doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It needs a supporting ecosystem. For hospital procurement administrators and EMS directors, the true brilliance here is the modularity. The frame assembly runs $2,035 and the backboard is $703. But let's say a stabilization strap gets lost on a chaotic scene. That's just a $58 replacement. If the suction cup wears out, it's a $78 part. You aren't replacing an entire machine just because one component took a beating. They also offer a dual-bay tabletop charger for $850, allowing departments to easily keep multiple batteries hot and ready for the next call.
Section 5. Addressing common operational questions. Before a highly technical unit like this hits the field, first responders naturally have some practical questions. The most critical operational question we see is about patient variability. Does one size fit all? Human bodies come in vastly different shapes and sizes, and delivering the exact right amount of force to a small elderly patient versus a large, broad-shouldered patient is a highly complex physics problem.
The answer? Absolutely yes. The system automatically adjusts to ensure optimal CPR performance regardless of the patient's size. The onboard sensors detect the resistance and depth required for the specific patient underneath the piston. The rescuer doesn't have to guess or manually calibrate the machine while precious seconds are ticking away. They literally just secure it, turn it on, and the device handles the calibration instantly.
Users also commonly ask about a few other key operational guidelines. We know it has that incredible 45-minute battery, but what about setup? Well, it's completely intuitive, taking mere seconds, so an EMS team can deploy it without interrupting the flow of care. And naturally, because emergencies don't wait for sunny days, it's fully engineered for serious durability in the unpredictable, extreme environments that first responders work in every single day.
And finally, Section 6, the bottom line.
Let's talk about the practical reality of medical procurement. The main Defibtech ARM XR unit carries a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $15,599 as a special order item. Now, for an everyday consumer product, that number might induce a little sticker shock, but in the world of high-tier, specialized emergency medical equipment, this is a highly calculated investment into a community's overall survival rate.
So, when you factor in the engineering, that massive battery life, and the modular accessories, it leaves us asking, how do we actually value automation when human life is literally on the line? The Defibtech ARM XR essentially acts as an extra, tireless pair of hands on an emergency scene. It frees up paramedics to administer drugs, manage airways, and navigate treacherous transport environments, all while knowing their patient's heart is being mechanically pumped with absolute precision. What is that kind of reliability worth to your emergency response team? Something to think about. That brings us to the end of our explainer. I hope you walk away today with a much deeper understanding of the incredible engineering quietly waiting in the back of an ambulance, ready to perform when it matters most. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.